Right, so yesterday saw one of the single most egregious attacks on innocent Palestinian civilians by Israeli forces since the events on October 7th began, in an event now being referred to as the Flour Massacre. For as much as events in Gaza right now are tending to focus on Rafah and the vast majority of the Gazan population having been moved on and are now trapped there with nowhere else to go, not everyone has moved south for all manner of reasons. There are still Gazan people in the north of the Strip, what is left of it, having remained in refugee camps like Jabalia for the most part, though these people were all to the south of what is left of Gaza City at the time of this Flour Massacre. Aid to these people hasn't been able to be delivered for over a month now, until yesterday when aid trucks finally got through, only for the starving people who swarmed upon one to be opened fire upon, killing over 100 of them and injuring a further 700. Yet the takeaway from that, from one Israeli minister anyway, is that we should be more concerned about Israel's people than who their people are actually starving and killing. Right, so yesterday saw the appalling massacre of more than 100 people. Depending on the source, Quds networks say 150 killed, over 1,000 injured. Other media outlets are saying different numbers, so the numbers are very much still up for debate, still have to be firmed up. But a lot of people all the same, all for the sake of trying to get food from the first aid truck they'd seen in a month. Desperate doesn't cut it. How on earth these people have survived that long with literally nothing, living amongst the ruins of what was once northern Gaza, I can't fathom. Living on animal feed, I saw one report say. Imagine it, this is the first major aid delivery you've seen in over a month, and as you rush to grab some desperately needed food and water and other supplies, the people on the truck open fire on you instead. They fired into the crowd. They fired into the ensuing chaos. The people they were supposedly delivering aid to got slaughtered by them instead. It's being called the Flour Massacre because the name nails on exactly what it was and what it was over. And people won't forget that either. There was no Hamas there, just starving people. And to just cut 100 or more of them down as they did is just one more in the far too long litany of war crimes committed by Israel. In what way can Israel say they are only defending themselves over this? That they were exercising their rights to defend themselves here in this instance? There's no way they can here. These people will have been on the brink. You brought them food, and as they desperately run to claim their share, they get killed instead. Weak, hungry, defenceless people in search of food, and instead of just giving it to them, as was the job of this delivery, instead, in an act of off-the-charts savagery, the Israeli soldiers on delivery duty shot them instead. It was a massacre. It was a war crime. But the headlines, my God, they are twisted. The Washington Post said, chaotic aid delivery turns deadly. Well, deadly for whom? Not for Israel, certainly, because they were the ones who made it deadly, weren't they? CNN called it a chaotic incident. No, a chaotic incident is when a dog runs onto a football field in the middle of a match, not a massacre. The Guardian called them, this one is ridiculous, food aid related deaths. What the hell does that even mean? They didn't choke to death on free biscuits, did they? They got gunned down. Absolutely unreal, inexcusable pretense that Israel is somehow not directly at fault. Of course they are. The reason these people are starving is because of Israel, and the reason they are now dead is because of Israel. Take the food out of the equation, it's still more honest than those headlines. Hamas didn't kill these people, Israel did. So say it, report the facts, tell people the real news, what exactly is going on, and not your skewed version of it. If it was Putin doing this, you can bet they damn well would be. Dozens of people were taken to Gazan's last remaining functional hospital. Not fully functional, I might add, which ironically is in the far north of the Gaza Strip, Kamal Adwan Hospital, as 300 injured people were brought in, along with 20 who had died by the time they got there, all brought in on the back of an empty food truck, perversely. So only a small fraction of the injured even got that far. And even that number was overwhelming what the hospital, functional as it is, could offer. Dr. Hossam Abu Safia, the hospital director, said, "This is what we were afraid of, frankly. We would be out of service and dozens of martyrs and wounded would come. As you can see, we are now working off the charging and battery system. The majority of cases need surgery and operations rooms. To be honest, I don't know what we can do. The situation, as you can see, is horrendous. Now we are working with only first aid or emergency." Well, of course they are. If no aid is getting into the north, and that includes medical aid too. But Israel's attitude to this? Well, put it this way, the IDF felt comfortable enough in their own actions to show aerial footage of the massacre, saying, "Aerial footage of the operation to bring humanitarian aid into the northern Gaza Strip, showing how the Palestinian crowd attacked the trucks, and as a result dozens were killed from overcrowding, crowding and trampling." A lie. They were shot, and we know this with certainty not just because we've seen images of the aftermath, but because an Israeli army spokesman admitted as much. Here's an excerpt of what Turkish-based Anadolu Agency reported. An Israeli military source admitted Thursday that the army opened fire on Palestinians waiting to receive humanitarian aid in Gaza City, leaving many dead and injured. The source, who preferred his name not mentioned, told Anadolu that the shooting took place near the humanitarian corridor that the army is establishing south of Gaza City. The deadly assault occurred when several Palestinians approached the Israeli force that was overseeing the entry of aid trucks into Gaza City, posing danger to the soldiers, prompting them to open fire, according to the source, who said the shooting is under investigation by the army. The army claimed that a stampede, while trying to distribute aid, caused casualties to the Palestinians, along with being struck by aid trucks. It said an initial investigation found some Palestinians approached an Israeli military checkpoint overseeing the entry of the trucks, with soldiers firing warning shots and shooting at the legs of Palestinians who continued to move towards the troops. The Gaza Health Ministry said at least 104 Palestinians were killed in the attack. Similarly to the lies of the IDF on social media, though, has come the appalling commentary coming from one Israeli minister bleating about the safety of the IDF in the aftermath of all of this, none of whom were shot, killed or injured, of course. And on that basis he believes that aid to the north should be stopped entirely. Yet again, it is the hard-right ramblings of loudmouth Israeli Security Minister Itamar ben-gvir that this is coming from. He put out on social media in response to this massacre that total support must be given to our heroic fighters operating in Gaza, who acted excellently against a Gazan mob that tried to harm them. Today it was proven that the transfer of humanitarian aid to Gaza is not only madness, while our abductees are being held in the strip under substandard conditions, but also endangers the IDF soldiers. This is another clear reason why we must stop transferring this aid, which is in fact aid to harm the IDF soldiers and oxygen to Hamas. Madness to provide aid when they are stopping others from doing so, funnily enough. UNRWA, for example, have stopped trying to get aid into the north, not only because Israel is stopping them, but because their funding is drying up due to their lies too. Israel have perpetrated about them funding and supporting Hamas. You have settlers blocking aid trucks, preventing any aid entering the strip at all, and then laughing and cheering and dancing about it at the thought of starving the people within to death. Israel are not doing anything to stop them, not arresting them for obstruction, nothing. Neighbouring Jordan has taken the action to the skies now above Gaza to deliver aid drops and getting around these blockades of aid trucks, and pathetically even the US is apparently now considering this option, which if true shows they have completely lost control of their Israel project and still won't do anything to censure them. Delivering aid to innocent civilian people is harming IDF soldiers when it isn't, and giving oxygen to Hamas, which it also isn't. Ben-gvir is a madman, a dreadful little man operating what basically amounts to a private police force in Shin Bet, which is his only ministerial relevance. He's advocating for the starvation of Gazans and praises for the IDF for killing them when coming for aid. Not only is this tweet appalling and actually admitting to a war crime, but actually what excuse has Twitter got for not having taken this tweet down for violent speech and incitement? I had to press the translate button to read it myself, written in Hebrew as it was. Are Twitter unable to flag up stuff like this in other languages, or is it a blind eye being cast instead? Ending aid whilst preventing others from delivering it is collective punishment, a war crime, and Ben-gvir gets away with it internationally because too many are still shilling for Israel, and nationally because Netanyahu needs him to stay in power himself. He's going around doing and saying stuff believing he is completely untouchable, even admitting to the IDF killing these people when their official line was still that they got crushed due to overcrowding. He needs a day in The Hague alongside Netanyahu and the rest of this fascistic government, and the evidence just keeps mounting up against him and them. It is state-sponsored terror. Matters are not easing up at all in Gaza. They are being exacerbated, and politicians like Ben-gvir are the political equivalent of those same IDF soldiers whose safety he fears for so much, posting their war crimes on social media for us all to see and celebrating what they're doing. He celebrates too. It's not necessarily all going Israel's way internationally, though. Reliant as they are on arms sales from abroad, as the EU has recently done something to upset that particular apple cart. You can find out all about that story here if you watch my video recommendation next, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.